Sports Authority Board of Directors meeting to order. We appreciate the Tennessee Titans and Nissan Stadium for hosting us today. We will hear a report from them a little bit later in today's meeting. As you know, the appeals process for any action of this board can be found at the top of today's agenda. I would also first up, we will take up consideration of our meeting minutes from our May 16th board meeting.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor to approve the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Our executive director will give us the staff report. Monica.
The mayor is here. You can't see him. He's getting coffee. Mayor Briley, after you get your coffee, then you can.
So, good morning, Mayor. It's nice to see you at our board meeting today.
You have questions for me? It's like a public hearing, right?
We'll be easy on you.
Hey, John, how are you?
You snuck in. I was looking for
I was
your
getting
team.
coffee. Can I have just a minute?
Please.
Well, I just wanted to drop by first and say thanks to each of you for your service to the city. This is a great board to be on. I know that, but it's also a lot of work, and we're counting on you as leaders in the city to make sure things go well, and they are. In fact, I think today you'll consider an extension of the lease with the Predators for 30 years. That is going to change the way the city does business. It's for many mayors, the city has found a way to partner with the Predators to build an important part of the community, and it's paying off right now with new terms that keeps the Predators here for as long as they want to stay, I hope, and at least 30 years, and also reduces the city's financial obligations overall to the enterprise. So, and it's going to result, in fact, in a great new improvements to Bridgestone Arena. So, all good. And I just wanted to drop by and proclaim that the city of Nashville is excited to have the Predators staying, excited that the lease terms are so good for the city and for the Preds, and again, to thank you all for your service to the city. So, thank you, Kim, for giving me just a minute. The red light didn't go off, but I'm going to consider the public hearing closed. Thank you.
Thank you. I would also like to note we have Emily Pacini, also from the mayor's office, chief of staff, at our meeting today too, which is also significant, and we appreciate the mayor's office stepping up and participating in today's meeting. Thank you for speaking, Mayor. Now we will turn it over to Monica for our report. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. You have the agenda in front of you. I'll note that there are 2 items requiring action by the authority. Mayor Briley just referred to the second one. The first one is agenda item number 4, the consideration of the consent to sell Metro's district energy system to NG Development, LLC. And then agenda item number 5 is consideration of the resolution approving agreements related to the leasing of Bridgestone Arena to Powers Management. Aside from those items, the board will receive the MLS Stadium update, the Nissan Stadium report, and then at the end, we're going to conclude with just some discussion on board member orientation, which we mentioned last month. Are there any questions about the agenda? No? Okay. Since our last meeting, Mayor Briley has appointed Anna Page to fill the unexpired term of Bob Obrata. She was confirmed by the Metro Council on June the 4th. Anna is a longtime Nashvilleian, former council member, and the owner of Rebel Hill Florist. Unfortunately, she was already scheduled to be out of town, which is why she's not here with us today, but we look forward to welcoming her and having her with us at our next meeting. A couple of you have asked me where we are in the process of hiring a finance manager. So just a little update. We've continuing to have conversations with HR and with Metro Finance. Now that the FY20 budget has passed, We're going to really start to hone in on that. Our goal is to have something posted in July. I do think that the Personnel Committee is going to need to meet probably before our next meeting. So staff will be reaching out to the members of the Personnel Committee, and we'll check for availability. Okay. And then finally, in your binders, just before tab 3, are aerial shots of the Ford Ice Center, Bellevue, and the Community Center. And so, as you can see, if you've had a chance to look at them, it's coming along. We're very excited about the progress being made there. The anticipated completion date, I believe, for the Ice Center is late August, early September, and we will plan to have a formal update on the Bellevue Ice Center at the next meeting. Okay. Are there any questions? That concludes my report, Chair.
Thank you, Monica. Next up is consideration of a resolution as to the sale of Metro Nashville District Energy System to NG Development and the assignment of the agreement.
So in your binders, again, towards the back of tab 3, you'll see Metro District Energy Systems brochure. This is just what's online. DES provides chilled water and steam to about 40 to 42 buildings downtown, including Nissan Stadium and Bridgestone Arena. The costs associated with the services go directly to the facilities as an operating expense. And I think we usually see that every year when we review the budget for the arena. But the Sports Authority as a body has just had very little interaction with DES. I'm looking around. Some of you will remember that about 2 years ago, we did enter into an MOU with DES, allowing them to install some fencing around a manhole access point here at the stadium, trying to keep out trash and debris. But that's really been about it. So to give you some background this morning, Dan Coyle and Kevin Jacobs with Thermal Engineering Group are here, and they're going to give a brief presentation, and will be followed by the NG team.
Good morning. I'm Dan Coyle with Thermal Engineering Group, and we're the contract administrators for the district energy system here in Nashville, known as Nashville District Energy. And it serves chilled water and steam to 40 buildings, as Monica said. Chilled water only to the stadium, a football stadium, and chilled water and steam to the arena. And the city has been going through a process of trying to sell the facility to a private entity that can put the capital necessary to expand it to the next level. Over the last 5 or 6 years, we've connected a lot of new customers. We're about almost to our full capacity. The next stage is we need further expansion, and the city would rather that be done by a private entity instead of the city itself. And so we've gone through a process. We've gone through a process to divest the system to a private entity. It's taken about almost a year now. We've reached the process of gone through procurement. The procurement's made a recommendation, and we're at the stage of introducing the sale of purchaser. We're going to talk about the brief discussion of the contracts and how they're structured, which Kevin's going to talk about. Oh, I'm sorry. The RFP process is the next slide. Is a lot of detail. As I said, we've gone through a long process to try to make sure everything was considered. Multiple considerations have been made, and the recommendation is for sale. Why is this not going? There you go.
There you go. Okay. All right. Each of the customers for the DES system have what we call a customer service agreement, which is their.
You introduce yourself
Oh,
and
I'm
tell us
sorry.
who you're with us.
I'm Kevin Jacobs with Thermal Engineering Group, and we serve as the contract administrator for the city for the district energy system. Okay. Each of the customers have a customer service agreement, which is the contract for service to them. All the CSAs are for a 30-year term, including the 2 buildings under the Sports Authority. The rates are established. Basically, there are 2 different components. One is a capacity charge, which is based on the demand or the amount of energy instantaneously that each of the customers take, and the other are the pass-through costs, which are based on the monthly consumption, the meter consumption of the energy that is used. The capacity charges are based on a pro rata share for all the customers. The DES is almost everything, almost all the costs are directly passed through. The capacity charge for the Nissan Stadium and the Bridgestone Arena are based on the system operator charges. The system operator is the contractor who operates the system. If any of you have had any interaction with the actual operators, it is Constellation New Energy. Usually if there's an issue in a building, they're the ones that come and address those, and they operate the plant and maintain everything. So they have a contract with the city, and there's a annual cost for that, and the customers pay a pro rata share of that based on their demands. The facility charge is the Sports Authority buildings pay their pro rata share of a debt service payment based on the initial cost or initial construction of the plant. As you remember, there used to be a Nashville Thermal Transfer Corporation, which was a trash plant across the river that burned down. A new plant was built, and then all of these new contracts fell under that, under the new plant, and was associated with that debt service. There are other miscellaneous capacity charges, such as annual engineering costs and insurance costs and things of that nature. The pass-through charges are those based on the monthly consumption, which is usually the utility costs. So if it costs $500,000 for electricity in that month, and those costs are split out amongst all the customers based on their monthly consumption of chill water or steam for that month. It's all a direct pass-through on all those. So whatever the bill is everybody pays their portion of that. And it just disappeared. Oop. Is that me? That's not me. That's the end of it? Okay.
Yeah. So that's a brief summary of what's going on with it. And as Monica said, that all of these are paid for by the end users, and the Sports Authority is just a holder of the contract. And so what we're here to do now is ask you for approval for this consent for sale. And Bob Blackie's going to speak to that for a few minutes.
For those of you that may not know who I am, most of you do, I'm Bob Blackie. I'm with Metro Finance, and I am real excited to be here today because I'm not going to share with you any information about Sports Authority, Predators or Titans or anything else, because I'm wearing a different hat today. I wear many hats, but I also serve as the liaison for District Energy to all the customers in the district energy system, back to the Metro Finance Department. Most of you probably did not know that, but that's one of the roles that is my responsibility. And I'm not going to bore you with any technical information, so sit back and don't get nervous about me putting up a lot of slides on the board about that. But the reason I'm excited about this is that we have an opportunity before us today that we haven't had for the last 15 years. The contracts that Mr. Coyle was referring to was contracts that the city entered into roughly 15 years ago when we moved from, for those of you that have history here, and I'm sure most of you do, the old Nashville Thermal Transfer Plant. We moved from that old inefficient plant that was costing millions upon millions of dollars annually for the cities to subsidize. We moved to a new, much more efficient district energy system, and our customers signed up for that plant. And we had a certain amount of capacity for that plant. And that was roughly 15 years ago. And we had an option in our contract to review that after 15 years, and we got to that point. And all of you can see all the birds that have been in the air that have been building these buildings called cranes, and we've had explosive growth. And working with Mayor Briley's administration, it was determined that we need to re-review where we are and look at the opportunities to expand our system without putting Metro Capital at risk, without looking at asking the taxpayers to subsidize our system more and more annually, and say, what opportunities are out there? So we went out through this RFP that Dan mentioned to say, what are our options? What's our best opportunity? Is it our best option to do nothing, which is basically what we've been doing because we've basically grown it to the extent that we can grow it. We basically maxed out. It would put Metro Capital at risk if we decide to grow it. Or do we want to continue managing like we are, or do we want to look at options of possibly putting it in the hands of a private enterprise? For the most part, it's been private for 15 years because it's been privately run with no Metro employees. So the results of the RFP came back that it's the best option to be able to expand the system, not put Metro at risk, take out all the debt, and our folks with Engie will go into that more in their presentation, would be to sell the system. And that's where we are today. The recommendation that came back through our RFP process after it was evaluated would be to sell the system. But there are requirements that we must go through in order to sell that system, and that's why I'm here today with you as a customer of the district energy system. The Sports Authority signed a contract as one of the customers that it required you as a customer to provide consent for the sale of the system. And we're going through this process simultaneously with all the customers in the system to obtain that same consent, that you approve that consent as a customer. Now, ultimately, as I say, all customers have to approve, but once all those consents are obtained, ultimately the Metro Council must also approve the sale once all conditions and so forth are met before the sale can be completed. The mayor accepted this recommendation and is totally on board with this recommendation, and actually, as I think all of you know from what you've heard through the budget process, included this recommendation in his fiscal 20 budget, which was recently adopted the other night. So the plan is to move forward with this recommendation, and I and the administration wholeheartedly recommend your approval of this. And at the present time, we've got representatives of Engie Development who the notice of intent to award was given by our purchasing department, and they are in the process of obtaining these consents. And Mr. Larry Salguero, and he has another associate with him that I will ask him to introduce, will be coming forward to present you a presentation to tell you everything that you would possibly ever want to know about Engie Development and their plans in terms of future development in this district energy system and what it means to you as a customer, and also to walk you through the consent notice. So, Larry, if you would come forward, I would appreciate that very much, and I thank you for your time. Yes.
Before you go, Bob,
Yes.
how long have you served in Metro government?
I have served Metro 45 years and counting.
All in Metro Finance?
All in Metro Finance, yes.
I think we're aware that you wear many hats, and it's always comforting to have you here walking us through the history. And please know that you are a tremendous resource. And this board, it will be difficult to understand a time when you're not a part of Metro government. So I know you say you want to retire one day. We don't want you to do that, but please, if you would, please join me in thanking Bob Lackey for all of his service.
All of you are very, very kind, and I will say it is an extreme joy and pleasure working with each and every one of you. Thank you very much. And I'm not leaving today. Yes.
I did have one question.
Yes.
I just wanted to understand contextually, where are we in this process in terms of the other 40 customers? And after you answer that question, I also wanted to know, have there been any other opposition or pushback to customer agreement?
As you go down the process, you're always going to have questions from customers. I know that one of the biggest customers has been the state of Tennessee, And it's my understanding, Engie is meeting with them again after numerous meetings late this afternoon. And I believe most of the issues that the state has had have been resolved, and they're finalizing the agreement with the state. There's extreme timelines, and one of the biggest timelines, I'll just be honest with you, is board meetings, the state's building commission schedules, also their agenda schedules for meeting, like Monica has schedules for board materials, and I think their meeting deadline schedule, if I'm not mistaken, is tomorrow or such. That I think they're, for the most part, for them, fairly well satisfied. Unfortunately, the state's deadline, Engie has a deadline of July the 11th of having all customer consents. I think we're down to maybe 7 or 8 customers for all 40 buildings of having everything resolved. Several of them are trying to finalize who is the right person to sign off on the consent. There's 1 or 2 that are always trying to say, I'd like a better deal, and we're trying to get those resolved. So we're very optimistic that we'll be able to get all of these done in time for the deadline.
Thank you.
Dan?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, Bob. So we have 2 separate agreements or one agreement?
One agreement. It's one agreement that is the Sports Authority, and it covers both facilities.
Both buildings, and it ends in 15 years?
It ends, right, in roughly, it's just short of 15 years. I think it went back to December.
So presumably 15 years from now, were this not to go through, we'd be negotiating with the city for rates going forward in another contract, and now we'll be negotiating with an outside.
That's correct.
Are there any pricing controls or consideration to protect the Sports Authority's interest in that regard?
It would be the same basic contract. The same contract's in place. It's just some substitutions that the Sports Authority would be consenting to, changing from Metro to Engie, changing a debt component that would be, instead of Metro's debt, it would be Engie's debt. I think Mr. Salguero is planning on walking through that.
Oh, okay. Last question then. So is there an extension or a renewal option that we have on these agreements so that would provide us some pricing protection?
In the current Metro agreement, there are extension options. Those stay in place, I believe, or?
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, sir. Yeah, ma'am.
Sure, Bob. And I also want to thank you for your service. Anytime I got a question and I ask you, you pull it out of somewhere and you know it.
Thank you.
I don't know. One question was, will we be, will the system, not us, but will the system be expanding now with all of the construction that we have in downtown?
Yes, the anticipation, and that's the only reason we looked at these options to expand the system. And I don't want to put words in our partner's mouth, and I call these partners because we can't do things by ourselves. We have to have partners. Looking, for example, on combined heat and power as an option. It's like putting turbine engines into a district energy plant to where it produces electricity, and through electricity you self-generate, and then you could use that electricity to operate yourself instead of buying it from NES or TVA, and those savings can be used to save energy for customers. So yes, I mean, there's options that they're planning on utilizing, and there's so many more options that I can't go into that a private entity could use with ready capital. You know, as an authority, in order to get city capital, you go through that on an annual basis, and you have to compete with police interests and fire and community centers and so many different interests. It's almost impossible to get capital for things that people don't see, they can't touch, they can't feel. But when a private entity has it and they see that there's a return on that investment and who it can benefit, they immediately jump at the opportunity. And it can not only help them, it could help customers as well. They can look at opportunities of putting equipment and abilities in customers' buildings as well, and to help customers. That's why I'm excited about it, because I can see the benefit. I know that Engie Development can see the benefit. They've been doing this all over this country. Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
in the event that you all are not able to secure 100% agreement by the deadline?
Yes.
Are there any next measures in place, or would the deal?
Yes, we do not believe in moving forward without a contingency plan. First thing we did is that we continued with a contingency plan of extending our current agreement with our current provider for 2 years. You never know in this world what might happen. So we have an arrangement with our current provider that carries us out to December of 2020. So that means there's no change, there's no interruption, there's really no concern in terms of the level of service we'll be getting. As far as the current process, I don't recall if that was mentioned or not in the procurement process, but there was in this process a protest that was there was a protest that our current service provider issued, and that protest is ongoing. It's now scheduled, will be scheduled for an appeal. So we really don't know where that's headed in terms of ultimate resolution. But in the event of your question, pending the outcome of the protest or pending the outcome of council approval, should the purchase or consents, if they're not obtained, there is a contingency to where the award would go to the second. It would go to the second bidder. That is an operations bid. That is not a sale, which means that the opportunity to expand the system would probably not be there. It would just be the same basic business as usual. So I can't say in the future how the administration would like to proceed, but that is, yes, there are backups.
Questions.
Yes.
In the materials, there was a reference to ENGIE managing about 350 similar systems around the world. Do they manage any other municipalities in Tennessee?
I'll yield to Larry.
No, sir, there's no other district energy systems like this in Tennessee that we know of that's in the public setting that's looking to be privatized. We don't operate one here operate one here in Tennessee. Correct.
Are you in any surrounding states?
So the closest district energy systems that we have would be one at Ohio State University. It's a district energy system that pretty much provides heating and cooling to 400 plus buildings. In Long Island, New York, there is a district energy system, NASA serves the Coliseum, some multiple public buildings and some private. It's been in service there for over 25 years. And University of Maryland College Park, we have a system there as well that provides energy, not only heating and cooling, but also electricity to the campus. I forgot the number of buildings there, but those are the ones that I would say are more notable here in the U.S. And we just got awarded a $700 million transaction in Canada that is going to essentially take over its privatization, if you will, of the district energy system in the Capitol building, Capital City, Ottawa, where we're not only going to operate and maintain it for the next 30 plus years, but we will actually be investing money into it and converting it into really, let's say, the most next generation, if you will, of district energy systems.
Excuse me, would you please introduce yourself for the record, too?
Sure. Larry Salguero. I'm the business development representative that's overlooking the transaction. And I also have here with me my colleague, Don Johnson, who is our customer representative director here in town.
Also in the materials, it listed some of the buildings that we're here today on Nissan Stadium in Bridgestone, which is under our authority, but it also includes the state capitol, the Metro Courthouse, MCC, Ryman Auditorium, Shimmerhorn, and 7 downtown hotels. Are there any projected savings for Nissan and Bridgestone, and if so, how much? Yeah. Then the same question for the other, just overall from a global perspective, what savings do you anticipate here?
Yeah, sure. Sure. So maybe I can take a global response to this because there are 18, 20 specific contracts that are coming with this portfolio. About a third of the energy that's going to be supplied is to the private sector. Another third is the state, and the final third is the city. The city will continue to be a customer of the DES moving forward. And maybe it's a good time to maybe touch on some of my slides that address that as well, if you'd like. It'll show some numbers if you can help me with the, I believe it's the third slide that speaks specifically to those questions. Okay, so that one would be good, yep. So that kind of outlines our investment into the system, which brings in the savings to all customers. There's a breakdown there of the investments that we see within the next 7 years. The purchase of this asset is $60 million. From there, we come in as the new owner, and there is immediate savings that we see just by the way we operate. There's, as Mr. West mentioned, we have a portfolio. We either own, operate, and maintain, about 350 of these district energy systems worldwide. So we have a broad template to work from in pulling best practices, bringing those onto this location. When we visited this facility over a month now, our engineers walked it and asked questions, and after having reviewed information, and quickly came up with a list of things that said, yeah, these are things that we can implement rather quickly, that can start creating some savings, operational savings. And so those are, let's say, quick implementation, high value type of activities. On this list, we start looking at different asset investments. Bob mentioned earlier the installation of essentially a generator, if you will, on site to produce our own electricity to run our own system, and the waste product is heat. We recover heat from that waste and make the steam, so now you're not running your natural gas-fired boilers as much. And even with that heat, there is technology called absorption chilling that allows you to make chilled water with that waste heat. So now you're running an entire system more efficiently, and the amount of savings from that, self-generation of electricity versus bringing all that power from the grid creates some savings that ultimately gets passed on to the utility payers. The electric bill, if you will, for the DES system is about $5 million. We can do that for a lot less. That savings is what gets passed on to the customers pretty quickly. That's, let's say, year 2, 3, because there's a cost. There's time that needs to be put into coming up with a design, the construction, and the operation, the commercial operation date of that system. But those are things that can be done rather quickly, and we have more control over doing that because it's within the fence. We're not trying to compete with NES. We're not selling electricity to the outside. It's just to energize ourselves. And there's an added bonus to that, to all those that are being served by the district energy system, is that now you have your own on-site generation. In the event that our generation goes down, you're still connected to the grid. You still have the same wires coming to your facility as they are now, and that then becomes a backup. So you have a level of backup that's not there today. So it means that the customers continue to receive the heating and cooling that they're paying for. Separate from the internal improvements and internal investments, there's also the ability to expand. I think you were the one that asked the question about expansion. We are very eager to expand this system. We have ambitious goals and yet conservative that we say, we can double this within the next 10 years, assuming that customers are excited about having an option to get connected to the system at what we believe would be lower rates than if they were to try to do it themselves with their own equipment. The idea is to give these building owners an option in downtown. And where was I going to go with this? Is the oh, I forgot my thought there.
That's okay. Are there any other questions for Larry? And was that, was it correct that you have no other presence in the entire Tennessee Valley Authority region?
We do in Alabama.
So, yeah, we have a facility in Alabama, Decatur, Alabama. It provides heating and cooling to United Launch Alliance. United Launch Alliance is the rocket company that has been sending satellites out into space for the last 10+ years. And we've been serving them with, heating and cooling at their really large facility for, quite a long time. We have satellite offices as well. We're not just in the heating and cooling space. We also provide other energy services, and so we have. We really have a presence all over the country and really all over the world. But as far as specifically to this area, we do have pockets of people that are NG employees that may be addressing different aspects of our total breadth of offerings.
Any other questions while we have?
I actually wouldn't mind if I gave you a little more about who NG is.
If we could do that very briefly, that would be
Sure.
great. We have a
If
long
you can go
agenda,
to the
but-
first slide, I think it's really helpful for you to understand who NG is, because I'm sure you may not have ever seen this name before, and it doesn't surprise me. But we really have a storied past, and I actually really do get excited about telling folks who we are. We had a pretty strong start back in 1822 with the financing of the Suez Canal. So, from the very get-go, we've been, let's say, in the business of serving people and society. And as you mentioned earlier, our portfolio is about 350 of these worldwide. That means that we have all kinds of technologies, all kinds of customers, whether they're hospitals, government buildings, and other types of facilities that have, a serious need for that energy to be available. We understand customers, and we also are a big driver of clean energy. In Europe, where most of these DESs actually are in place, because cost of energy is much, much higher over there, and it makes much more sense to have these things in place. They're using sewer water as a heat source and as a cooling source. That's how advanced they are with the implementation. They're using, what's called essentially geo-exchange or heating and cooling by means of tapping into the aquifers below ground. Very, very low to no carbon type of applications. We would love to see this here if it makes sense. And so, our technology is even in Antarctica. There's a research center over there that is a renewable electric heating and cooling system. It uses solar panels. It uses wind turbines, batteries. That is our design. We didn't build it because the research scientists wanted to build it themselves, but that's how far our technology is, and we do get excited about talking about energy, and we really are thankful that you've invited us here to introduce ourselves. And if you'd like, we can spend a minute to go over the consent form. We're at your.
Are there any questions about the consent form?
Monica, I see you addressed the concern that Constellation is protesting. I saw your letter in there. Is there any, mention there's an appeal process? When do that?
I don't think that a timeline has been set, but we're just going to move through our process and what we can do, and procurement will walk through that piece.
Thank you. Okay. At this time, we could, the rest of the presentation is think, in everyone's packet. If you have any specific questions for the representatives, we can go through those.
I think the one thing I would point out in your packet too is the letter asking the Sports Authority to support, your position in terms of not being regulated as a public utility. I don't know if that's something that, maybe that's something that should be addressed because it is a letter included in the packet.
Sure, it's something for your consideration. It's not required as part of the consent to sell, but it's really just letting the customers know that there is the potential for the Tennessee PUC to take this on and consider it something that needs to be regulated. Our view is that, much like many private district energy systems in the U.S., that are not regulated, that this one also not be regulated. The reason being is the contracts were, let's say, signed by the customers because there was a business decision that says, you know what, this is good for me. And so they signed this agreement with the city many years back. So it was a voluntary commercial arrangement. They're all voluntary commercial arrangements. And as we become the owners of this system, we honor those contracts. We still work under those contracts. And so, any new customer that comes in would be one that comes in because they also felt that it was a good business decision, not because they have to sign up because they are in downtown or anything like that. So it's all a commercial decision as to who gets signed up. And so that, I think, is a good reason for us to continue to work under the commercial arrangement that's already in place. And, we don't want to necessarily have a regulated form here because there is a chance that there's going to be costs associated with regulatory compliance that has to get passed on to customers. So
I think that's out of our jurisdiction, but
Yeah.
certainly understand it's worth noting for the
Sure.
record. So thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for your, yes, sure.
Larry, I did just want to know, in the consent agreement, this agreement is with NG or a subsidiary of NG. And so how do what's the timeline for you all determining if it remains with NG or one of your subsidiaries? And then does that have any impact to what we will be agreeing to today?
Sure. So NG as a practice we operate our own systems. We maintain our own systems. And when we say affiliates, we really mean it's NG, but we, just like any organization, typically when they have multiple commercial structures, they create different special purpose vehicles. It's the same thing here. The division of NG that would be operating and maintaining this would be under, its own corporate entity. But it really falls under the NG umbrella. Those folks that actually overlook the operations and maintenance, that management is co-located with the corporate office. So it's not like we're going to outsource that to some unknown entity. Yes, perfect.
Clarification, you were talking about, I understand you correctly to say that you can give consent without taking a position on whether or not it should be regulated as a public utility.
That's correct. It's what we're doing is letting you know what our view is and why, and you take that and take into consideration as far as what you feel is right for you. And if you have the ability to sign that consent form, what we were going to do is collect those consents, the PUC letters. Collect those, and and when we go to the Tennessee PUC, essentially let them know, look, this is the support that we have, and again, this is why we think we should not be a regulated body.
Are there any other municipalities served by similar contracts that are not regulated as public utilities in Tennessee?
In Tennessee, so I don't know that Tom's here or if Bob's still here, but we had that discussion with Tom Cross with Metro Legal, and he didn't think there was one that was of a kin that was regulated. So this is somewhat unprecedented, and so that, we don't know which way the PUC is going to go with this one. Either way, we would still be interested going forward. We just feel like it's better for everyone if we just continue to work under the commercial contract that's already in place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so before us, we have, according to the agenda, consideration of consent to sell the Metro Nashville District Energy System to ENGIE and assignment of the agreement. Is there a motion to that effect? Motion? Second?
I'd like to ask procedurally, when it's appropriate to bring up an amendment, is the motion to approve consent and recommendation that we recommend that it not be regulated as public utilities, or?
I don't think,
I think-
that's not, I'm sorry, we'll let Metro.
Well, in the motion is to approve the resolution. There's a resolution attached.
Okay.
And it is to agree to the terms and conditions of the assignment as provided in Exhibit A, which is the letter from, the letter that you would be sending. And number 6 in those terms and conditions is to support ENGIE's position with regard to the Public Utility Commission.
So the answer to the question is,
Yes.
yes, we would be taking a position on whether or not it should be regulated as public utility resolution.
You will be supporting their position on that, yes.
I'd like to offer an amendment that we just take no position on whether or not it's treated as a public utility or not, but approve the contract proposal.
We have an amended motion.
That's not an motion, I'll move approval with that.
Can I ask Metro Legal a question? Have the other entities that this has gone before, if it has this, the consent to this portion of the PUC position,
I
is that a standard in
I
this?
do not know the answer to that question. I
Convention
have
Center Authority approval.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't personally know the answer to that question, but our legal director tells us that the Convention Center Authority has approved the letter in this form, which includes the support for ENGIE's position before the Public Utility Commission.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so where we are is we have a motion to consider the agreements. Then we also have a motion to consider an amended version of approval of the sale, yet not taking a position on the PUC consent
Do we
letter.
need to second them in order, or if there's agreement?
Oh,
You need a second on the amendment motion, right?
that's right, we have a, yes. Yes, is there a second on the amended motion?
I will second Dudley's amendment.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the amended motion. All in favor to approve the motion as amended by Mr. West, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the amended motion of approval passes. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying and helping me through that fears. Next up, we are at consideration of the Predators lease agreement. Monica, start yourself.
Well, so as you can imagine, it's taken a great deal of work to bring us to this point where we are today, and the final product, of course, is the agreement before you, and we are excited about it. As the mayor said at the beginning of the meeting, this keeps the Predators here for another at least 30 years, and also kind of relieves the city of much of our financial obligations. So we think it's a great deal. I want to thank Mayor Briley and Emily Piscini, Law Director Cooper, Margaret Darby, Metro Finance, the Predators, everyone who's been involved in this deal. And then I also especially just want to say how much I appreciate this board's engagement over the last 6 weeks prior to the May meeting and in the weeks since our last meeting. Metro Legal, the Predators, and I have met with board members individually, both in person and over the phone, just trying to answer questions and listening to comments. And there's been a lot of engagement. Margaret Darby and I have also met with each of the tenants in the reserved areas walking them through those tenant assignment agreements and letting them know what to expect next. So Law Director Cooper is back with us today, and at this time I'll just turn it over to him for any last minute comments or any final answers to any final questions that the board might have.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
I'm here to talk about district energy and its distribution. I know very little about that. Like Monica said, I want to thank you for your involvement as we've gone through this process. You have asked very good questions. You have caused us to be thoughtful and deliberate. In fact, as a result of conversations with Margaret Bem, some language was added to the agreement from it's in your packet. It was distributed to you. But some language added regarding the support of future sports that may want to come to the arena. And so there was language added to that effect. So I just want to thank you for your involvement. I'm happy to answer any questions. Hopefully between me and Margaret, we can answer the questions, but we're just appreciative of your support.
Questions for John? Would you walk through the priorities again on the waterfall?
Waterfall,
and the
sure.
Commitment of maintaining our outstanding obligations and what those are, and
Okay, so the first thing to get paid are the Sports Authority's obligations, and that includes the debt service on the Ford Ice Center bonds. It includes the SEC agreement that the Sports Authority has approved. It also
John, excuse me, this is behind the blue tab that says revenue schedule.
thank you. There's the color copy.
Yeah, so some of, if you look at, if you have the color copy, if you look at the first blue block, that is kind of that starts the waterfall. So the first blue block is the first priority. So that includes the MSA revenue bond commitments, which is Ford Ice, the MSA commitments, which is the Sports Authority, and other MSA operational expenses, which is funds that will go directly to the Sports Authority for administrative expenses, staff, et cetera. The second thing to get paid out of the waterfall is the first gold block there, and that is the arena maintenance fee that is paid to Powers to operate the arena. So that's to cover the cost of operating the facility. The third priority is where we split the hockey sales tax revenue. Starting in 2021, that will be split equally. Metro retains 100% of that for fiscal year 20. Then in 21, it will be split equally with a repayment over 3 years of the 2020 50% amount, if that makes any sense. Then fourth is the management incentive fee, which is something Powers can earn if they bring in the revenue. It would not to exceed 15% of the arena management fee. After that comes the capital account, which is what would used to be, which was what would be used to pay the debt service on the future improvements to the arena.
And then I think I had a question too on under the Powers Make Whole amount, the reference to February 19th for the proposed First Tennessee lease term sheet, was that based on just documentation from that date and time, or is that a point of reference?
I'll need to refer to the Predators for that. It's,
Yeah, it was a term sheet that we received from them in February of 19 with a rate, and that rate was
Based
used
on
to
that point.
calculate interest on that make whole amount.
so that's from the Predators lender.
And then will you remind us too on the ticket, the ticket proposed charge as well? And
Yes,
the
so
escalated-
part of the agreement and part of what you will be approving is an increase in both the SIF and the SUC. So the seat use charge and the capital improvement fee, those would both be going to $3. In addition, there would be a 5% escalator that could be charged going forward. So it could increase by 5% every year thereafter. So wouldn't have to come back to the board for that. That's built into the deal. And so the amount would be the lesser of $3 or 15% of the ticket price, or 5% of the
5%.
ticket price.
But if it goes beyond that 5%,
Then it would be, it's capped at the $3.
then any additional increase would have to come before the board for approval.
Right, any increase over and above the $3 plus the 5% escalator would have to come back to the board.
Kim, can I ask one?
Yes.
That 5% incremental is not automatic, it's elective on behalf of the creditors, correct?
In the spreadsheet, it's built in as being automatic. I think that if they elected not to do that, they could, but for purposes of figuring out what the amounts will be, it is factored into the spreadsheet.
And so the idea, was it 72% of the users are anticipated from outside?
From outside of the county, 70-something. 72, right.
So essentially the users of the
Right,
facility.
this will be solely paid for by the users of the facility. No obligation to the Metro taxpayers.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
There- Any questions while we have Mr. Cooper?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I believe what is before us is in the form of 2 resolutions on this, Margaret?
Just one resolution.
So at this time, we would entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and properly seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. The new agreement is approved. Woo! Please keep your outbursts to a minimum.
We're done now for 30 years. Use yours.
It's nice to see you, Mr. Henry. Okay, moving on. Our project manager from our MLS Stadium, Mr. Ron Goebel, is here today to give us an update on the MLS Stadium project.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and everybody. It's good to be here. It's always good to follow Mr. Henry. But I do want to mention Jim Prochaski with CPS, who's working with us on a variety of these projects. Since we have several new board members, I think it'd be beneficial to walk you through the clusters of projects that's going on the fairgrounds. On the fairgrounds campus, it's roughly 120 acres. What you've got in front of you, what you can see, Area 1A at the bottom of the screen is the fair park. That is complete. They're using that area. It's going to be a series of soccer fields, help operated by the Parks Department. and used for parking for large events, and it's got one of the most used dog parks in the city. So that's up and running. 1B will be completed once the Election Commission moves some voting machines, which is scheduled for the fall. And then that building will be demolished, and that will be a continuation of Fair Park. Phase 2 is a continuation of Fair Park up along Craighead. That will be an extension of the Greenway. That will be improvements to Browns Creek. That's scheduled to be completed in 2022. Item 3 is improvements to the grandstands. That's basically paint and lighting, not anything extensive, as they're looking at future use of the Speedway and how that might work. Those projects are on hold, but they're about 120 days worth of work. Item 4 is the Expo Center. We'll talk more about that, but that's going to be where all the facilities are relocated, and the things such as the flea market and other things will be operating. Item 5 is demolition of the buildings at the top of the hill. That we'll talk a little bit more about in a minute, but it is getting things ready for the future stadium. Item 6 is the infrastructure project, which we're kicking off. Talk more about that as well, but mainly it's the extension of Wedgwood, constructing a bridge that connects Wedgwood to Craighead, and the extension of what's Benton Avenue, a little short street now that will move through the property. Item 7 is the stadium. I'll mention that again in a minute. And items 8 are the mixed-use projects that are being constructed. So this is what it looked like in December. If you look at the bottom of this page, that's the area where the Expo Center is going to be. Everybody can see the racetrack. That was 7 months ago. This is what it looks like today. We've got, you're seeing 230,000 square feet of roof, 130,000 of it's heated and air conditioned. That will be opening in late summer. And the first flea market is going to be scheduled soon. So that's moving along quite nicely. If you look at the top of the hill, at the top of the page, you'll see all the existing fairgrounds buildings. If you've been out there recently, you'll know those are in poor condition, and those are all to be demolished once the new facility is up and running. So they're scheduled to be, the demolition of those areas is scheduled for starting in October, right after the state fair, and being completed toward the end of the year or the first of next year. And then the infrastructure project, we're kicking off now in the design phase. Most of it's going to be, like I said, the extension of Wedgwood, which will be straightened out and connected into Craighead with a bridge over Browns Creek. Then the curved part you see at the top is the extension of Benton Avenue, and it'll be brought down around. And in addition to that, all of that has all the utilities, and it's really several other smaller projects that's going to get utilities to and from the stadium and that kind of function. So that is underway. The stadium itself, schematics are complete. The construction management team has looking at it along with the management for the team and trying to assess and value engineer the various components of it. And that's moving along quite nicely. Again, construction starting early next year. So that's kind of an overview.
How early?
Well, it depends on how you define construction. Demolition will be completed by January, and then they're looking at, there'll be work going on. You probably won't see a lot of work until March or April, May, that time frame.
What is the current parking capacity at the fairgrounds versus what it will be? It looks like by your diagram, or actually by these photographs, that there are two long buildings on what is designated as the largest parking area.
Well, both of those buildings you can park under.
Oh, you can, okay.
So they're part of that. I don't have the numbers with me today, but it's roughly the same. We'll be, as far as parking, there's various options for various events, and it changes. We're looking at doing some improvements and along with the infrastructure project, facilitating parking inside the speedway, which is 1,100 cars by itself. But what you see there, that could be parking, or it can be, if for big elements, you know, for state fair, whatever, it could be used as a shed space.
So those buildings will stay? Is that what we're getting at?
Which building?
Yeah, they're brand new.
Yeah. Oh, okay, gotcha.
To answer your question? Okay. Anything else?
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
We are on to facility questions. You have the monthly reports in your binder. If there are any additional questions for the Predators organization or the Sounds, I see Team Sounds up front. We would take those at this time. There are no questions as to those reports. We will now receive the Nissan Stadium report, and I believe Janine Kaufman, the CFO, will kick this off, no pun intended.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here to welcome you today to Nissan Stadium. We've got a lot going on. If you haven't had a chance to look out there, we've got a lot of dirt going in and a great event coming in this Saturday with Monster Jam. Steve Underwood is on vacation, and so he sends his regrets for not being able to be here today. But once again, we want to thank you guys so much for all that you do for us. We realize that you do put in a lot of time on the board, and so we really appreciate you guys being here. We have a great agenda for you today. We are super excited. We've got Dave McGinnis here to kind of give us a football update, talk a little bit about the draft. We're going to have Burke Nihill come up and talk about some of the economics of the draft and how that really impacted the city. We've got a community relations update as well from Tina Tuggle. Bob Flynn is going to give an overview of what's happening here at Nissan Stadium and all the events coming down the pike. I'm going to spare you my finance today because we just don't have a lot of changes from the last time we were here, although I'm happy to take any questions during that part. And then we're going to wrap it up with a video from, and Amy Wells is going to present that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dave McGinnis. Dave McGinnis has been in the NFL since 1986. It's a long time, Dave. And he is one of my true, really good friends. He is an amazing person, and he can really talk football. He is also our color analyst, if you ever listen to Titans radio. My mom loves Dave, and so she actually turns the TV down and listens to Dave call the games because she loves him so much. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dave, and again, thank you for being here. Come on up, Dave. Do you want to click through?
Thanks, Janine. No, you click.
All right,
You click. You know, normally when I'm in this building, I talk a lot. And so when I was coming up that elevator, I got fired up because this is, I mean, I've been in the National Football League. I'll be beginning my 34th year in the National Football League. 11 of the 33 years I've spent right here with the Tennessee Titans. And believe me, I've loved every minute of it. I've lived in Chicago, I've lived in Phoenix, I've lived in LA, I've lived in St. Louis. This is my favorite place. I originally grew up in a real small town in West Texas. I was so happy after my coaching career when Stuart Spears called me and asked me to come back here and be part of the Titans radio broadcast team. I couldn't get in that F-150 pickup and drive back here fast enough. Okay, I was so happy to get back to where they said y'all again. I mean, and this is a good place. It makes me feel good. I'm extremely proud. I was fortunate enough to be able to talk with this group 2 years ago. So I think we're on a first-name basis now, so I'm Coach Mack, and that's exactly how I'm greeted by everybody in this city. And 2 years ago, we had a playoff victory. So hopefully, we're not only going to have another playoff victory, we'll have another playoff game out here in this stadium. That's what we're looking for. All right, let's talk a little bit. We did the draft here. And as I say, I've been in the league for 34 years. When the draft was coming here, I've got friends all over the league, and friends from Philadelphia and friends from Dallas called me and said, look, you guys are going to have a hard time topping what we did with this draft. We're going to come, but don't expect to be able to top what we did. Well, guess what? That was the most amazing. I've been involved in some amazing things in 34 years in this league. I've been so blessed and so fortunate. This event that we had here when Nashville, Tennessee and the Tennessee Titans hosted the draft this year was the most spectacular thing I've ever seen in the National Football League. It was incredible. I graded 180 players getting ready for the draft. We did our draft broadcast from the General Jackson over here, moored right here on the Cumberland. And after our third day, because it got over earlier in the third day, I had about a dozen people here visiting from Dallas, from Chicago. They were all visiting. I moved out of my house, got a hotel room because they couldn't get enough of them. And then I went with all of my people down on Broadway for Dierks Bentley and for the Indian fireworks. Look, I've done a lot of things in my life, just like all of y'all have. That was exciting. What went on here was incredible. Burke is going to give you some of the particulars of it, but from my standpoint, and I was very, very happy. One of my friends from Dallas, when we were down there, said, Coach Mack, I just want you to know, you guys here in Nashville did not set the bar for future drafts. You are the bar. And that was outstanding. I feel so bad for Cleveland coming up following us. Not really. Okay, let's start talking a little bit about what we've done here with the National Football League. Our front office, John Robinson, I've been involved in ball for a long time. I know good from bad. John Robinson and his staff, the front office, is outstanding. Here's what we did in free agency. Free agency, and once you get your front office and your coaching staff established, your players are the lifeblood of what you do in the National Football League. We're in a very competitive division in the AFC South, as we all know. So some of the additions that John Robinson made, he signed Adam Humphries, who was the third most productive slot receiver in the entire National Football League last year from Tampa Bay. This is going to be a big, big part of this offense coming out this year. Adam Humphries, remember that name. He's going to be easy to cheer for. He's going to be easy to like. I promise you. I won't dig real deep into ball, but when I get in here, I've got to talk a little football. The offenses have expanded horizontally in this game, and to have somebody that can work the middle of the field, keep your eye. Once we get Delaney Walker back healthy, and we got Adam Humphries working the middle of the field, it's going to be some good stuff. I'm going to be real excited about 4 doors down in that broadcast booth here, I promise you. Okay, the other thing we've done, he brought Cameron Wake in here from Miami, from the Miami Dolphins. When I was here in 2008 as the assistant head coach for Jeff Fisher, we tried to sign Cameron Wake. Jim Washburn, our defensive line coach, tried so hard when he was in Canada. Well, 10 years later, he's finally here. This guy is going to be a tremendous addition, Cameron Wake. Roger Saffold. We needed to reinforce the interior, the triangle of our offense, center guard triangle. Roger Saffold, I spent 5 years with Roger at the Rams in St. Louis and in L.A. He was the best interior lineman in free agency this year. He chose to come here. Let me back up a little bit. Adam Humphries chose to come here, gave John Robinson his word he was coming here, and then, because normally what moves the needle with free agents is more money. Let's just be honest. He got an offer from the New England Patriots for more money. And Adam Humphries, give you an even more reason to like him before you ever watch him play, said, no, I made my decision. I gave my word to John Robinson and the Titans. You can go find somebody else. That's impressive to me because I've been in this league a long time. That doesn't happen very often. Okay, we also re-signed Kenny Vaccaro as a safety. who was a free agent, who was here on a one-year contract. That's a big, big plus and a big, big get for us. In the draft was a tremendous thing. John Robinson not only understands there's so much work that goes into the draft, just as there's a lot of work that what you guys do. But the hours that go into a draft, it boiled down to 6 guys. And it's an amazing process. And as I said, I've been a head coach. I've done it all in the National Football League on the football side of it. The draft is a very exciting, and it's also a very nervous time. Because you make your draft, you make your grades, you set your draft board vertically and horizontally. You do a lot of things, but you never know once it starts. This draft that John Robinson and his staff had was outstanding. Jeffrey Simmons, a first-round pick from Mississippi State, is when I graded, as I said, I graded 180 players. He was one of the most dynamic players I've ever seen on the inside, and I've seen a lot of them. I was on a staff that drafted Aaron Donald at the Rams. If anybody knows anything about the National Football League, you know that name. This guy is going to be dynamic once he is able to get on the field for us after he rehabs his ACL injury. A.J. Brown, a wide receiver. The pairing of A.J. Brown with Davis and with Humphreys, you're going to see some different things out of this offense with Arthur Smith, our new coordinator. A.J. Brown is somebody that's very, very exciting. Nate Davis, big offensive guard. Signed a big offensive guard. He's a young kid. He's going to take some time, but Nate Davis is going to help us. Amani Hooker, I'm really excited about this player from the University of Iowa. He's a safety that fits into a lot of the things that Dean Pease does with his defenses. Dean Pease is one of the most innovative defensive coordinators in the National Football League. This is another valuable piece for him in Amani Hooker. DeAndre Walker. This player lasted longer than I thought he would in the draft. He's going to be another guy from the edge rusher. He's from the University of Georgia. David Long, a linebacker from West Virginia. You can never have too many linebackers. I was hired in 1986 by Mike Ditka at the Chicago Bears as a linebacker coach. I've made a living for a lot of years drafting and coaching good linebackers. They keep you employed as a linebacker coach. This kid is going to do something for us. What I would like to say is, to me, as I said, when Stuart Spears and the Tennessee Titans called and offered me the chance to come back to Nashville and to come back and be a part of this community and to come back and be a part of this organization, I couldn't wait. Just like when she asked me when I wanted to come here and talk with you guys, I couldn't wait, because I believe in what this organization's doing. I believe in this city, and I can't wait to sit in that booth with Mike Keith and start calling some more games. Tighten up. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Burke, your timing's bad. How
Isn't
you
it?
follow that up, right?
Burke Nihill, Tennessee Titans, Nissan Stadium. I usually follow Dave McGinnis. Everybody's ready to run through a wall and talk about security or something. At least today, I get to talk about the NFL draft. I can still say good morning for about another 10 minutes, but it's been a long morning, so we'll go through it pretty quickly. But I want to start with a video.
NFL draft is now officially open. It's Tennessee in the building! Yes! Tighten up!
It is incredible when you see everybody that is here.
Nashville, this is going to be a party tonight, and we are just about to get started.
Taylor Swift is here, live.
And our host here this weekend, Amy Adams Strunk. Thank you, guys.
Now, I know this is the moment everyone's been waiting for, right? Congratulations to Nashville, not only for the draft, but they are killing hosting the draft.
So I hope everybody had a chance to attend it in person, but if you didn't, hope that gives you a quick taste, as 115 countries around the world got a taste of Nashville during that weekend. I've got some numbers to show you, but quickly, it occurs to me as we're talking this morning about chilled water and ticket tax and lease terms, it's easy to lose sight of the payoff of what it is that you do in serving this community. And I think an event like the draft, the data is important data, it's good data, but it galvanizes communities. Sports is just a powerful, powerful force, and I hope everyone got to experience the electricity of that event back in April. To get to some specific numbers, though, Nashville shattered every record in the history of the NFL draft. Just let that set in for a quick second. The first number is related to attendance. I was at the Philadelphia draft, and if anybody watched that on TV, the crowd was the story, and it was just ended up being 250,000 electric Philadelphia Eagles fans, and we came away really hoping that they would give Nashville a chance, and honestly thought that's going to be something that's hard to replicate. That energy, that number of people, and to be standing here a couple months after the draft with 600,000 attendees compared to the bigger markets of Chicago, Philadelphia, Dallas is just a real feather in the cap to Nashville, because the data shows that 54% of the people who showed up to the draft came from out of the state. But that means that 46% of the 600,000 were from our community showing up to experience this. And so it's a real feather in the cap of Nashville that we had the numbers that we did. Direct spending. Again, a pretty astronomical number. The previous high was $74 million in Dallas, and $132 million was spent directly related to the event in Nashville. I'll show what that translates to in terms of sales tax in just a minute. To give you a sense, a comparison, SEC Championship last year was about $23 million worth of direct spending. CMA Fest, 4-day event, great annual event. Pleased to host it every year. That brings in about $60 million worth of direct spending. So $132 million worth of direct spending is a big number. The local economic impact, which is the downstream impact, not just the direct spending, but the people who are receiving the direct spending, going and spending the money in the community, again, a staggering number, $223 million, just much, much higher than any previous city has ever experienced. So a few other key statistics. The event was covered on 4 networks, 4 channels anyway. ABC, NFL Network, ESPN, and ESPN Deportes. 47.5 million people watched the event, which is a record, and it was broadcast in 115 countries, which is also a record. The event generated $10.6 million worth of taxes and fees for Davidson County. So in terms of a very practical impact on this community, that money's going into schools and roads and everything else. So again, another important piece of what it is that this board does. And I thought this was an interesting statistic. I mean, in this era, how many people agree on anything? And 97% of the visitors said that they would recommend this event to their friends. And especially, I mean, the crowds were enormous. And I know I talked to people out at our soccer fields and schools, and I'm waiting for people to complain about, the hassle of it all. And it really was just such a well-done event. Credit to the NFL and the city for operationally doing just a great job. Lastly, just a few pictures of some of the things that were happening maybe outside of the TV cameras that were also bettering the community, galvanizing the community. There were, I don't know, Tina, 10 or so events related to community relations. There was a bridge ministry event. There was youth football events every day. Some events focused on special needs, and it was just a wonderful event for our franchise. And thank you for your support in making it happen. Any questions?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You tied it all together, even brought in
Thank you.
nice reference. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am Tina Tuggle of Community Relations, and I'll just go over some of the things that we've been doing in the community for the past few months, in addition to all the activations that we had around the draft. I'll talk a little bit about Titans Caravan, 5K, Tighten Up for Tots, and the Coaches Clinic. So immediately following the NFL draft, the following Monday, we started Titans Caravan, which is when we went, it was 3 weeks this year. Typically, we do it quickly over 9 days, but this year we spread it out. We wanted to kind of capitalize on the excitement surrounding the draft. So we started Monday through Wednesday for the next 3 weeks, touring all of Middle Tennessee, Northern Alabama, Southern Kentucky, East and West Tennessee as well. And of course, the Titans 5K we've done for a number of years. The fun part about 5K is identifying charities to receive some of the money that we raised during it. And so this year we benefited Play Like a Girl, which is an organization that fostering positive images surrounding young lady in the Middle Tennessee area. And this year, Tighten Up for Tots, in partnership with United Way, our goal was to make sure that we were able to say we contributed 10,000 diaper bags in partnership with United Way to various organizations that supported women in underserved communities. And lastly, our Coaches Clinic. We had almost 200 coaches come from throughout the state of Tennessee. We had some from Alabama and Kentucky as well. We had guest speakers not only from our own coaching staff, but Vanderbilt's Derek Mason was one of our guest speakers. The head coach for University of Tennessee flew in for that as well. And that is my community slide. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you. Next, Bob Flynn.
Good morning or good afternoon. Bob Flynn, Nissan Stadium. Glad to have you all here at the stadium. I think I've got a couple things here. We just put together.
Stadium looks great.
Thank
even
you.
With
Well,
dirt.
even there's a lot of dirt out there right now. It's as you all know, it's one of my favorite shows. Saturday at 7 o'clock, we will have a bunch of kids here. It's a bunch of families. It's just an amazing show. It's a neat show. So, but this year it's a busy year for us. Every year we're trying to get busier and busier, and this year. You can look at it right there. We're doing a lot more with this stadium than we ever had, and we do that because that's part of our reason why we have the stadium here. And without your all support, we couldn't pull everything off, and without the support of ownership and management. So, but I'm happy to, you all know me. I love being here. I love putting on events and making things hopefully go better than they have in the past. But so, we had Eric Church here May 25th, and we had 56,000 tickets sold or out. It was an amazing show. It's first time. It's most tickets sold for in the stadium, I think, for a concert, at least for he did it all himself. It wasn't an opening act or anything. It was just him, and he played for 3 hours and 45 minutes. It was an amazing show. It was a great show, but he played and played and played. After that, CMAs, we had 4 nights of CMAs. Once again, great event. We were worried about weather. Thursday night, we had rain. That was supposed to be the worst day, or supposed to be the best day. Ended up being the worst day for the weather. Friday night was good. Saturday night was good. Sunday, we had a little shelter in place in the morning, or right before the opening, but we pulled it off, and it was 4 good nights. So they moved out last Friday. Dirt started coming in here yesterday, and so now we'll have Monster Jam Saturday night, and then 9 or 10 days, I always forget what it is, July 3rd, we'll have the semifinal Gold Cup game, which hopefully is the U.S. versus, I'm not sure who it is, but just need the U.S. here. That's all I got to say. So, and then the rest of it, we'll have 2 NSC soccer games here, and then we'll have our 10 football games, the Titans games here. We have 2 TSU games here. We have a bowl game. We have a Nashville Sports Council is hosting Western Kentucky versus Louisville this year, right before our home opener. So we'll have a busy 2 days there. But, it's a busy stadium. But, next year it's going to be busier. And that's, I guess it's what we like. So let me flip this to the next one. Oh, there you go, pictures. I'll leave it here. Just love Monster Jam. Okay, so some other updates for us. We launched finally a NissanStadium.com website. So please go there, get all your information. We're very proud of it. It's going to talk about all the events we have here, the Titan games, and everything else we do here about special events and all those different things, all questions about what you can bring in here, what you can't bring in here. You all probably noticed it when you came in today. If you had an umbrella, we didn't let you bring in an umbrella. It's all part of our Safety Act application. That's why we get a lot of pushback on some things, but Safety Act is very important to all of us here, and we have to follow it always. Policies, 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 so.
Can we make sure that's linked on the Sports Authority's website too?
Okay. Yeah, we're proud of it. We just opened, launched it right before Eric Church or? Yeah, right before CMA. So, project update, as y'all know, we've got the Wi-Fi going on here. They're working every day. We should be ready before the opening of season, but it's going to really enhance everybody's experience here. I mean, I think it's 1 to 70 people or something like that. Somewhere around there. So wherever you're sitting, you shouldn't have an issue of getting onto Wi-Fi. It should be great. We had to add a circuit breaker here. I'll go into it. If you want me to stop, just tell me. Quad A over here, we were having some trips on it, meaning all of a sudden, our breaker would flip off. And so, Quad A is the southeast corner. The problem with it, and Jeff's here if y'all have any really good technical questions, but it was tripping when we weren't having events. So we're going, why is that happening? So Jeff called Schneider Electric, and they came out here and looked at it, and they were concerned about it also. We're going, why is it tripping when there's no, usually it's going to trip when you have too much going on. We weren't having anything going on. So they looked at it. It's 20 years old. So once again, it's the original part in here. So we had to shut down the power last Monday, 2 Mondays ago. Can't remember, because for Schneider recommended a replacement of the breaker just because it's 20 years old, the insulation, all that was going. The other breakers, we have B, C, and D right now. Everything looks good. We're not having any issues with it. But so Schneider came in here and they had to turn it off because they had to measure every piece because there's nothing you can get off the rack. So it has to be custom built. And Jeff, what are we looking at time-wise? 8 weeks? Around 8 weeks. 8 weeks. So we're hoping to get it in before the season because we can't have it go down during an event. I mean, to lose that quad, and yes, sometimes we can go back over there and get it tripped on, but when it did trip, our generators would pop on, but that's only for emergency lighting and stuff like that. So it couldn't carry, middle of a game. We need everything up and running.
Was the circuit breaker replacement something that we knew?
No.
That no.
No.
So it was
We weren't anticipating it.
unexpected surprise.
Yeah, we were not, yes. We were not anticipating. That's why I'm kind of telling you about it now. It's just some of those things, they just happen, and we have to do what we have to do. But we try not to. We would rather let, Monica know, the board know, and all that stuff. But it was one of those, when it's tripping without any cause, it made us a little bit more concerned about it.
So do we know the cost?
Janine, what?
About 280 is our estimate.
So it's not cheap. No, it's not cheap. It's not. I think it's 4,000 amps or something like that, Jeff. It's not.
Yes, the servicing Quad A is 4,000 amps.
Yeah, so it's not your typical breaker. It's a very large breaker. So, but we're hoping to have it back in before the season. But it's, it was unexpected. Nothing we wanted to happen. But we did check B, C, and D right now. All good. But who knows? It's 20 years old, and those things come up. So, another thing I think I might have told you about this before. We now do tours. Well, any questions on that? On the breaker and like that? I can get really technical if you want.
You've gotten technical enough.
Oh, good. Tours update. So we do tours now here at the stadium. We do them twice during the week, and then we do them on weekends. They've been great. We've got more people. I mean, they're sold out every time. We do about 30 people per tour. It's been fabulous. I mean, it gives people that come into town a chance to come through the stadium. We've never had it. We did it. I think we've been up and running since March, maybe April, and it's been fabulous. So it's kind of neat to bring something new to the stadium and let people come in here because, hey, as y'all know, we have plenty of tourists downtown. Gives them another reason to come in here. So, nope, that's all. Any questions for me? Anything about events or anything?
Does the, excuse me, Bob, but does the tour bus that I saw this morning, is that?
It's not part of my tour. I wish they would drop them off. It's good. No, we get those tour buses. You should come here on a weekend. It's amazing how many people stop out there and they'll take pictures downtown. They'll take pictures of the stadium. They chug a beer. It's amazing. It's interesting. Yeah. So, but I should somehow figure out how I can bring them in. But any questions?
Thank you.
I mean, glad to have y'all here. We appreciate everything y'all do. I know it's a non-paid position, and y'all have spent a lot of time, and I really do appreciate it because it, we all work together to make the city better. So thank you. Janine?
Hello. I am not going to spend a lot of time going through the financial information. There is not a lot of updates since the last time we presented to the Finance Committee. You guys have had our presentation and information on the user fee reports. Just as a reminder, those are kept by Metro, and our ticket tax summary. So you guys have all of this. Bob covered the changes to the CapEx communication tool as well, which was really the circuit breaker, and then additional invoices that we've received for the Wi-Fi project. So do I have any questions on financial information? And if not, everybody's good? Okay, good. With that, I'm going to turn it over and would like to introduce you to Amy Wells. Amy Wells, this will be her first time in front of the board. Amy is our broadcast manager for the Titans. She has been with the Titans organization for about 7 years, and Amy is here to tell us about something really exciting that happened this past weekend.
Hi, everyone. I won't take very long because I know lunch is just around the corner. But I wanted to let you know that we had the opportunity to be a part of something really exciting last weekend. Thanks, Janine. Yeah, go right ahead. Our controlling owner, Amy Adams Strunk, was inducted into the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame, and she was named the Tennessean of the Year. So a lot of the things that you've heard about today that go on within the Tennessee Titans organization and around our facilities are thanks in large part to her investment and leadership in our organization. So it was really an awesome event to see her honored in this way, and I just wanted to read to you the description of what create someone who is the Tennessean of the Year. And that's an award that was designed to honor an individual or organization that has made significant contributions to our society through sports or other methods demonstrating strong character, high profile, and leadership. So we feel like this fits Amy Adams Strunk to the T, and I think that we have a video that shows just how qualified she was for that award.
The Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame Board of Directors has within its rights the ability to award a Tennessean of the Year designation. The Tennessean of the Year is selected for making significant contributions to our society through sports or other methods, demonstrating strong character and high-profile leadership. This year, the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame has chosen Titans controlling owner Amy Adams Strunk as Tennessean of the Year. Several people were major players in getting the 2019 NFL Draft to Nashville, but Amy Adams Strunk was the ace in the hole. No surprise, as Amy spent the last 4 years transforming the Titans back into winners, both on and off the field. She hired great people like John Robinson and Mike Vrabel. Amy poured millions into free agency, football staffing, technology advances, and the team's training facility, St. Thomas Sports Park. And the Titans are winners again, one of only 6 NFL teams with 3 straight winning seasons. Amy spent months coming up with the sharpest uniforms in the NFL. She has dived into the community, pouring millions of dollars and her passion into various important causes. But more than anything else, she has gained the confidence and love of Titans fans, who know that no area is too small, no detail unimportant to Amy Adams Strunk. And in helping Nashville get the 2019 NFL Draft, Amy pulled out all the stops for a city, a state, and a group of people that she believed deserved a sports moment like never before. Her hard work paid off. The NFL Draft was a huge success in Nashville from this past April 25th through the 27th. It was an amazing weekend. 600,000 plus attended. 47.5 million watched. Economic impact, 224 million. Most importantly, memories were created forever, and Nashville and Tennessee shined for the world like never before. And in the process, Amy Adams Strunk shined too. It's hard to believe that less than 4 years ago, most people did not know Amy Adams Strunk's name. Today, she is one of the NFL's most respected owners and one of the most influential females in all of sports. She views herself, however, as just Amy. Tonight, we know Amy Adams Strunk by another name, Tennessean of the Year.
And with that, that concludes our presentation for the day. Thank you all so much for being here, and we'll be around if anybody has any questions. Thanks.
Thanks, Janine.
Thank you.
Our last agenda item is board member orientation discussion. Monica.
So at the end of our meeting last month, there was some comments and clearly a desire to kind of revisit our orientation process. And I'm really glad that the board is interested in a higher level of orientation for new members. We have several new members and we have several new contracts. And so I think that the time is just right to really dive into that. I think after spending some time thinking about it over the last few weeks, what I personally envision more closely resembles probably a mix of new board member orientation and continuing education for existing members. I think we've got a lot going on. I think things are changing very quickly. And as I've had a couple of opportunities just to kind of mention in passing this topic with some of the board members, the one thing that I've said consistently is, this is not going to be a one and done thing, right? I think the level, if we're going to do this at a certain level, it's going to take some time, and it's going to be a process. But I think there's going to be a lot of value in that. So I really am interested in hearing what you all think, and we can talk about that, maybe in the coming weeks, and whether it's just over the phone or grabbing some coffee or shoot me an email and let me know your thoughts, and I have some more ideas too. But it's something that we will really start to kind of hone in on here sooner rather than later.
What is your expected time frame, like next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days to put together the first overview for us?
Well, I think probably the most efficient way to do this, I think, is to really take the orientation or the continuing education facility by facility so that we can do a deep dive. And we're going to be, we're going to have to balance it with schedules. And there are going to be some facilities that, that you're more comfortable with, and maybe you feel like you don't need to attend that one. But then maybe First Tennessee Park comes around and you say, I really don't feel like I have a good grasp on that. And so you come to that. So we're going to let you kind of figure out what you need to do. But it's something that, I would love to do. I would love to get the first one done in the next, I'm going to say 45 days. We have, we've got to get Anna back in town and some other things that we're working through. But I think we're going to have to clearly draw out something, look at schedules, talk to our facilities and Metro people, and see how quickly we can come up with something. But the goal again is, to me, and Larry Adama used to say all the time, right is better than quick. So we want to make sure that it's done well and done right, and that it's not just a race to get something done. Having said that, we've got new board members, and we need to get you all integrated and confident and ready as soon as possible.
Something that I would put forward for consideration, aside from the facilities overview, which is certainly the crux of what we do here, understanding the history of the authority, how and when it was designated, what is our relationship to the council and the mayor's office, and our responsibilities to those groups as well as the constituents of the city. I'd like to understand that high level.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think
so that the context of these contracts makes more sense.
Aren't the bylaws included in the board packet for
when
onboarding?
new members come on, their bylaws, and there's a like a governance, best practice governance document. But in terms of what I'm hearing you say is, we really want some history and context.
Absolutely.
We need Bob Blackie's
Yeah, no kidding.
session with Bob.
Well,
Yeah.
that was going to be my suggestion, is that, I mean, I think not only from a historical context, but, I mean, Monica, I think you've preached to me, and I think to every new member, that, you know, the proof is in the pudding at the finance meetings. And even though, you know, maybe not all of us are on the finance committee and try to vote in the finance committee when you're not on it, I think that those give an incredible amount of context, but even still, you know, seeing the agreements, understanding the sources of income and where those revenue sources go, where those revenue sources come from, man, it's as evident with dealing with the new creditors agreement where we went through the waterfall. I mean, you know, it's extraordinarily complex.
Yeah, it is.
And I think that having Bob or somebody else that's involved from a finance standpoint, from Metro Finance, and even Margaret from Metro Legal, I think all of that gives the bigger picture and the larger form of context to the point where, like, those are the things that we need to know. You know?
Well, I completely agree, and I would say, I mean, I haven't said this to Margaret, and Bob is not here.
Right.
But they really need to be at all of them, because I think as you take it, I say facility by facility, but you can't get the information that you need without the input and the context and the history from Lee. So, I mean, I think would be an intricate part of every single session that we do.
And if we could just track it too with the oncoming staff member too, that's going to be dedicated from finance. I mean, I think that timing perspective probably makes sense, but Dudley?
I was just going to say, Jed, I think he's right on there. We do need to have an overview of all the agreements and what the issues are, what is our authority, what are things that are not within our authority, you know. And so you can really understand the financials a little bit more and preparing. You know, one of the difficult things about this serving on this board is, you know, you can't talk to anybody about, you can't have these conversations privately, and so the only way you can get this information is through this type of orientation, and I think that's something we really, really need.
And Monica, I would just be in favor of personally a 60-day timeline that could get us clean through July and early fall, just as a preference to be put out there.
Okay.
I know you.
I appreciate that feedback, and so please let me know and shoot me some of your ideas as well.
All right, moving on. Thank you for your time today, everyone who's left too. We appreciate time is everything, so thank you for making it happen today. Also, noting July 1 starts Metro's new year, and so it's really appropriate to also thank Metro Legal, Metro Finance, and the Mayor's Office, and of course the team at the Sports Authority. We've had a very successful year together with our facility partners and various constituents in the community, and it's just worth noting and thanking everyone that's been involved, because it certainly takes a team effort and a lot of collaboration to pull these things off and be a proud participant of this board, as we all are, I know. Our next meeting is scheduled for July 18th. We will see if there's a chance to, if we try in the summer, if we don't have to meet in the summer, giving schedules, that might be another opportunity to talk about the board member orientation a little bit more. But that's our next date scheduled, and we'll see how that goes. Please remember to leave reminders. If there's no further business, I would move to adjourn. Okay. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Great.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.